Disciplined Stoners.
The gateway drug to mindfulness.
Gateway drug to mindfulness. Let's roll one up and take a hit. Gateway drug to mindfulness. Let's roll one up and take a hit. Gateway drug to mindfulness.
And welcome back to another episode of Disciplined Stoners. I'm your host, Ellevan.
My name's Winnie.
And we are the Gateway Drug to Mindfulness. And today, we have... Okay, if you thought I was smart... Okay, hold on. I don't know how to put this. There are cannabis professionals. There are professionals in the cannabis industry. And then there are cannabis professionals. Those one with the plant that you cannot... detach them from the plant. They become the plant and
They
often
are the plant.
become named parts of the plant.
Okay, so our next guest is all up in the cannabis space, wrote the cannabis program at Durham and Centennial College, wrote Cannsell, invented the Hash Kettle. Okay, so these are just a few things that our guest has contributed to the cannabis community. We'll get into more, I'm sure, but please give a big warm welcome to Joe Hash. That was too loud, I'm sorry.
Get your joints up, Thanks for joining us, brother.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Love.
Why don't we start by, since our introductions still need work, why don't we let you sort of give yourself an introduction?
Tell us who you are, because we just did it very messily.
So eloquent.
No, that was great. You really did sum it up perfectly. I guess the only thing I could really add is that I come from the education world. Cannabis is a passion for me. It's part of my life. Like you said, you really can't separate me and the cannabis plant. I use it medically.
Yes.
I have fibromyalgia, diagnosed with fibro very, very young, and I use cannabis to treat my fibro very effectively because other medications didn't work. So I came into the industry from perspective of medical cannabis as a personal user, and also from an education perspective because I'm an educator. I was an autism therapist for about 10 years. In California and here in Ontario. And when Doug Ford came into power, he kind of threatened to take away funding for families with kids who have autism.
Fuck.
So I had to take a hard look at my life, and I was like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? And I decided to marry my passions for cannabis and education and found an opportunity at Durham College, which you mentioned, to create the cannabis program there, to build a cannabis program at Centennial College, and to write the Cannsell retail cannabis training program. So that's how I came into the cannabis industry.
That is so next level. Just to clarify for folks, especially watching in America, Cannsell is what you need to be a bud tender in Canada. So it's like if you work in the service industry, you have to get like a food safe or something. And if you're going to sell cannabis, you have to
go through this program
put together by our brilliant man, Joe here.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
And Ellevan and I did it together 2 years ago now. On separate, I was on a laptop, he was on a computer, and we were doing it simultaneously.
So you guys didn't cheat, right? You weren't helping each other.
100%. No, we were silent the whole time.
She asked me a question, actually. I was like, no, the makers of this would not appreciate that. You've been crazy. I follow all the rules, dude. Just like every stoner.
And it took a good amount of time, but we definitely learned a lot.
Actually.
Yeah.
It's a good fundamental cover.
It's good. It needed some touch-ups, to be honest. It does need to be revamped, not only because the cannabis industry moves so quickly.
So fast.
But some information isn't accurate, to be honest. So the Cannsell program, it isn't perfect, and it needs some updating. And I don't know what they're doing right now to keep it updated.
Yeah,
so I don't think they bring in new versions of it. But it was great at the time. I think it could use an update soon.
I was looking at it from the perspective of like if someone like wanted a job, like, you know, like some people just like want a job in retail and they're not like so well versed in fashion styles, you know, and it's like, well, this would be helpful to actually have like a directory to at least start digging, you know. So I thought it played a great role in someone's like new venture into cannabis.
I think your example of food or alcohol is a better one because it is kind of like a food handling certificate or like what is it when you get alcohol training for?
I think it's
Like-
all under the
Smart
food
Serve?
safe.
Smart Serve, yeah.
It was
Smart
food
Serve,
safe in
that's it.
BC, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's like a smart serve. And if you look at the groups that actually put it together, it's very similar. So I was contracted by the AGCO, the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario, who handles all of those kinds of things. And it was also in partnership with MAD Canada, who's really well known,
cool.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who
No way.
so they're very anti-alcohol, right? So it was a partnership between the AGCO and MAD Canada that created the Cannsell retail training program.
Crazy.
I wonder if this is so off topic, but it's not really. But I wonder if people would think differently about MAD if it was like Mothers for Sober Driving.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm not-
No, I think that would go over much better. So I had to integrate material that they created into Cannsell. You remember the MAD modules?
Yes.
With the white dude with the white hair?
Yes.
Yes.
Who just repeated the regulations word for word over and over. Remember, you cannot sell. It was the driest thing. I couldn't do anything with it. I couldn't, color it up. I couldn't animate it. So I just had to put it in there as it was. And it doesn't read well.
Yeah.
It doesn't go over well. You gloss immediately, and you're just like, get me through this. If it was a woman, first of all, so not an old white balding man with white hair.
Facts.
It's like, I think we're so over those kinds of people with messaging to us. Yeah.
Don't tell me anything.
Right?
Old white man, you know nothing now.
So I think there is that it wasn't very present-minded of them to choose to put an old white man in the video for Cannsell.
Well said.
So they could have chosen a woman. That would have been a smart choice. And I think they could have come at it with more creativity or edginess to appeal to
For
people so
sure.
we would want to listen.
Like stoners? Like
Like-
imagine appealing to people who know about the plant because by design they're stoners. Yo,
What are you doing?
I just gotta ask,
Yeah.
how does one come in such contact with such information about cannabis? Like, you are one of the most fluid wealths of
Versed.
knowledge, like, in cannabis that I've met and interacted with. Like, what has been the process and journey of you collecting all this information? Because, like, to be honest, like, you strike me almost as a savant of the plant. Like, when I speak to musician, you have a certain, like, intelligent energy about you where you're extremely focused. It's either played a tremendous role in your healing, which you touched on.
sure.
But, like, what has it been like going... Where have you found the resources to find this plant, or is it firsthand?
No, that's a great question. It's a combination of both. So I started using cannabis when I was 12 years old, very, very young. My parents were pro-cannabis. So
Nice.
that helped, not living in a home at a young age where cannabis was restricted, where information was not restricted. In fact, I found a pound of pot in my parents' closet when I was 12 and started selling it very, very young. And my mother ran a tropical plant maintenance company here in Toronto, very well known. So they educated me on it at a young age, rather than most families that would shut
Hide
down that
it.
conversation or hide it or shun it or punish you. We just set boundaries around it. Like, I had to finish my homework before I could smoke a joint.
Nice.
That kind of stuff. But I was brought into it very young. So yes, on a personal level, I learned a lot from my own exposure to it at a young age. But then also,
And your mom's a botanist.
she's not a botanist. She ran Toronto's largest tropical plant maintenance company for many years. So all of the tropical plants in the Eaton Centre, the Toronto Young Eglinton Centre,
Oh, no way.
the banks, Royal Bank,
Those beautiful...
all of those beautiful
centerpieces.
tropical flowers, and plants. So like the Western Harbour Castle Hotel, those kinds of places. We would be there very early in the morning, hands in the dirt, 7 a.m., doing all
Whoa.
those plants. So I got that education very young.
So you know about some photosynthesis from time.
I do, yeah. And actually that smell, like being in a greenhouse, is something that's being in a grow room and being around plants is very calming and
Yes.
centering for me.
Yeah.
I hope I get to do it for the rest of my life. I feel very blessed to be in the cannabis industry for that reason.
Blessed.
Blessed, what?
shit.
Shout out Blessed Edibles. What?
Then on the other side of things, like the formal education piece, I think we've been limited. We've been
Yes.
limited because cannabis is an oral tradition and it is an oral knowledge, like indigenous knowledge and tradition.
Yes.
Is very largely oral, and that's because it's been prohibited and forced into the underground for so many years. So we've had to pass it down from master to student. And as a result, there hasn't been formal documentation of cannabis studies until very, very recently. We have Dr. Mechoulam in Israel in the 1970s, and that's when we started researching it and formalizing white papers or research on cannabis. Because I come from a background of psychology, sociology, and education, I'm into reading academic papers. I like reading academic papers. I don't read books, I read journals. And so I pair my passion for cannabis in a personal level with my interest in knowing about research about cannabis.
Yes. Where do you find these papers to read?
So you know how you can do a Google search?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Google Scholar?
No.
Next time you do a Google search, type in Google Scholar and then do that search. You will only get academic papers as your results.
This information right here. There it is.
Okay, and then you can organize it by date. You can organize it by topic. It's a wealth of resource Google provides to us. Another place is the Cannabis Stats Hub, which is provided by Health Canada, actually. So we have a resource of local data, at least, where you can pull information from a place called the Cannabis Stats Hub here in Canada that's managed by Health Canada.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
when you were creating these programs at Durham and Centennial, were you given free reign to do whatever you were?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Who's going to guide him?
I love that you went into this because that's really where this conversation goes is where did I get the information to build all of these courses? And something I have to tell my students every semester is there is no textbook. They're all where do I buy the textbook? There is none. Nobody has written a cannabis studies textbook yet. There are grow books. There are research journals. There's nothing in between. So you have everything from how to make hash, how to grow weed from people in California way back, right? The old growers, the Ed Rosenthals of the world. And then you have the academic papers, but you don't have anything in between to translate this dense information or this really specialized information like how to grow or how to make hash into the layperson's language. And that was my challenge is how do I take really specialized content or how do I take really academic content and write it in a way that the middle of the world can totally understand it and benefit from it.
Take how to build a fighter jet and then teach people how to buy an airline ticket and catch a plane.
Right?
Somewhere in between there must be kind knowledge that's helpful.
And that was it. And I like that analogy because something we've been saying in the cannabis industry as an analogy is we're building an airplane in the sky. Because we are inventing things as we go. We're learning every day about cannabis.
Yeah.
And we talked before we started here about, we have to, and we talked about it actually in the show about Cannsell, and we have to update it because the cannabis industry goes so fast. So how did I write it and where did I pull from? I pulled a lot from academic journals. So my students are reading the same journals that I read, where I learned from. They're reading news articles. They're watching videos. Something I really have them do is I open them up to this idea of critical thinking because we have to be critical thinkers in this world.
Be careful, buddy. Be careful.
No, let's go down there.
Oh, all right, you two, be easy on us. Go. I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm saying, okay? All right, for half of our audience, take it easy, okay? Sorry, continue.
So I teach critical thinking,
Okay.
and in doing so, I basically say I don't take an opinion on anything. I don't go on one side or the other.
Totally.
To your point, kind of what you're warning about, is I don't take sides on any issue, and I think that there are many contentious issues in life that are contentious for a reason. There's good evidence on both sides of those issues that people gravitate towards.
And confirmation bias.
And we live in a world of gray, not black and white, and people are just...
Yes, sir.
Okay, but to that point, I think that where was I going with this? We were writing the course.
Yeah.
You teach critical thinking.
Critical
Sorry,
thinking. Thank
before
you. I
I made
appreciate
it a
that.
jackass joke.
So we're being bombarded with content about cannabis. We're being bombarded by headlines and articles and videos and all kinds of information. And I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gather all of that information and archive it for my students, pair it with some research, academic level information, expose them all to it, and get them to talk about it and dissect it and deep dive on it, give them some talking points to think about it, the things that the things I've learned and I'm still learning about it. And really the most beautiful thing about my course is that because there's no textbook and because the curriculum evolves, the discussion evolves every semester, and I'm learning from my students, like it's this organic process.
It's now.
Yeah, it's constantly now, which is really great. And I feel very lucky that Centennial College specifically has provided me that platform to do it.
Shout out Centennial.
Serious shout out to Centennial. Like thank you.
Please.
You got to recognize that this is a conservative, bureaucratic organization that has decided to teach students about the cannabis industry.
Thank God, because it's got to start happening bit by bit. And even to hear you say that, and to hear all this, we've all been at O Cannabis and seen, this very hippie culture make its way into this kind of mainstream situation, and what an oxymoron that is. Yeah. And even you say like these very structured ways of perceiving the plant, which is so necessary. We need the journals, the documentation. So much about cannabis is so magical. It's up here. It's mystic. It made me listen to nature or God or whatever you want to call it, like how to quantify that and value that. Like that's it's. But I so admire the work you're doing because it's such a necessary part in the third dimensional step towards putting I don't want to call it a price tag, but a frame around why. So I ask you why, because you mentioned some healing points with it, right? Like, is that you said it was in your family, but like it's a deeper compadre with you, I feel, the cannabis, because you've for me, I've used it to heal so much, like emotional reactive time, of course, right? Like aggression and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I know it like literally has incredible effects on diagnosed diseases. Like I'm diagnosed Tourette's, so it's like helps me breathe and stuff like that. So I feel a lot of folks who would have pain or discomfort in their life that found love and an easier life because of it. Like, they're connected at the hip with it for a reason. I'd love to hear some of your
I think that's a really good point. I love that angle. I think there definitely is a relationship also between like my interest in formalizing cannabis and what I recognize as the benefits in the plant. Like it's a medicine for real.
Yeah.
And in these cannabis retail stores where we're buying these products, they can't talk about that. So we need to be able to talk about the endocannabinoid system and what's happening to our bodies when we interact with these, and what homeostasis is, and how the endocannabinoid system and the hypothalamus are connected. So there's all this stuff happening.
This is for what he just said. It sounds very smart, and it is, but in plain sight, in a quick glance, it regulates your brain messengers.
That's exactly what the hypothalamus. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes,
here.
sir. Okay.
Cannabis interacts with your body in a way to regulate you to a point of homeostasis. There are some so we're talking about body temperature. We're talking about mood, like hunger,
happy state, like basic. Okay.
This is an interesting conversation, and again, this is an area where we're still learning every single day. By the way, this is Khalifa mints, isn't it?
This is Z Splitter.
Is it Z Splitter? I knew it was Ghost Drops. Like it tastes classic, like Headwater Ghost Drops.
Yes,
so
very good flavor.
Oh, so good. Yeah, we love that. Yeah, I bust open the Z Splitter.
Nice.
Yeah, I find it higher on the.
sharing.
Absolutely, brother. Please, what's mine is yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were we talking about again? Remind me. This is working.
Yes. I was just asking your journey into cannabis and how it's helped you heal or make a better, I guess, life for yourself, or the trophy of life that came with cannabis. And
Yeah, 100%. And I think we were also talking about how you can't talk about the medical benefits
that's right.
in the stores.
Yes. Yeah.
Endocannabinoid system, the
Problem.
regulation, the problem of not being able to talk about it.
Yeah, the endocannabinoid system. Yeah, that's fascinating. We need to I mean, without getting too political, like, do you think this information's been like kept away because it?
Wow, we want to have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No,
guess
it's cool.
obvious.
I teach my students this in my class, Cannabis and Society.
Not to throw a rock at a brick wall, but just to be like, it's probably.
Let's go down the conspiracy road for a minute. Do you want to?
Yeah.
I live there. I
Yeah,
live there.
Absolutely.
Harry Anslinger. We all know about Harry Anslinger.
No.
Oh man, he's the first drug enforcer in the United States. He essentially created cannabis prohibition as we know it.
Oh.
He was the head
Shit.
of the Bureau of Federal Narcotics, or Federal Bureau of Narcotics. That's what I think it was called back in the early 1900s. And he was mostly a racist dude. We had
Go
our
figure.
Yeah, go figure. We had our equivalent here in Canada. Her name was Emily Murphy.
Yes, I know Emily.
We know Emily, right?
Yeah.
She is really well known for being the first female magistrate and doing a lot of great things for women. But what's lesser known, perhaps, is that she was xenophobic and she had ties to people who practiced eugenics at the University of Alberta, who sterilized Indigenous women, and then who brought that technology to the Holocaust in Germany.
Holy fuck. Did not know that last part.
So they've been clicked up for time.
They've been
Holy
clicked up for time.
fuck.
So there's that connection. And then prohibition is also tied into all of that, and racism and control of people and population. So let's talk about that first, and then we can go to the plant.
Yes.
So we have to also remember this plant was legal in the United States. It was in the United States pharmacopoeia. We had people selling it in pharmacies and apothecaries. They were grinding it up. They were turning it into capsules. They were turning it into tinctures. You can go online. You can Google cannabis tinctures, and the new ones won't come up. The old ones will. We have companies like Eli Lilly, who are multi-billion-dollar, multinational corporations today, pharmaceutical corporations, who sold cannabis tinctures.
Fuck.
Back in the early 1900s.
No way.
It was totally accepted for many, many years. It was sold, and it was completely a normal thing. And this is also in a time in the early 1900s when we would use Chinese medicine and all kinds of different holistic practices to healing. This is, unfortunately, the same time that we had snake oil salesmen.
Right.
So yes, we had all of these amazing practices coming online, like acupuncture and holistic medicines and all kinds of different permutations. But you also had these people who were swindling and selling all kinds of different concoctions, and there was no evidence that it worked.
Just here in my garage.
Yeah. But there was a
Still
lot of that.
exists today.
Still exists today. So the government, the regulators of the world were like, well, this is a problem. We have to do something about this. Yeah. And a really well-known guy by the name of John D. Rockefeller. Does that name sound familiar to you guys at all? Rockefeller, the first billionaire in the world ever.
One of the most powerful families in the world.
One of the most powerful families in the world. John D. Rockefeller, at the time, was very well known for petrochemicals. He had oil refineries. He had so many, I think it was called Imperial Oil at the time, that the government forced him to break it apart into what we know as Shell, Exxon. Like, he owned a conglomerate of all of the oil companies.
Just all of them?
All of them.
Holy.
And they forced him to break them apart because there was no competition and he owned them all.
It's like if Jay-Z owned Spotify and Apple Music.
Well, they're actually trying to do that to a couple companies right now. They're trying to split them up, really massive conglomerates, because they're saying it's too big, and it takes away fair competition.
Pepsi, Lay's.
Those massive conglomerates, like we know, the whole world is run by 5 companies or something like that.
Walmart.
Unilever, PG and Procter and Gamble, P&G,
Oh, yeah.
Unilever, Johnson & Johnson. Like, there's only 5 companies that own all the other companies.
That is so wild.
So
fuck,
John D.
this-
Rockefeller.
this just got demonetized.
This is where we're going, right? this whole YouTube just got demonetized.
We're here for the culture, baby.
You asked. I mean, here
Yes,
we go.
sir. Please,
So
please,
you want to
please.
see where this goes back into cannabis,
Yes,
right?
please,
Okay.
please,
So
please.
John D. Rockefeller gets his fingers into medicine. He sees that his petrochemicals can actually create vitamins, like vitamin C. And so, this is really well needed at the time because the American population's not very well nutrition. There's a lot of malnutrition going on around. So he actually has chemists working in petrochemical labs creating vitamins and minerals and different things that are really essential for our bodies. And he brought in a whole new school of medicine called allopathic medicine. And it was a different way of treating people. And he used his money to shut down medical schools that used holistic medicine. He bribed government. He did all kinds of stuff to try and control medicine in America, and it worked. And the old medical schools and medical practices shut down. The apothecaries shut down. The old doctors retired, and a whole new world of medicine that's about treating people with pills, and it's just a totally different method of analyzing,
capitalistic,
assessing.
And their clients, their patients.
It's a very different method of working with human beings. And so that's what's happened. And part of that, to bring it back to cannabis, is that cannabis was, and also tied into racism, used by a lot of different people as a way to relax at the end of a day. Instead of drinking alcohol, a lot of Asian people used heroin. A lot of South American people used cannabis. So there's that racial element tied into it, and that's where the xenophobia and racism parts come in. But in the early 1900s, Harry Anslinger, at the end of alcohol prohibition, is like, oh shoot, what do I do to legitimize my job? Alcohol prohibition's over. Like, I don't have anything to prohibit anymore.
They need the position, yo.
And he's friends with like William Randolph Hearst, who owns a huge newspaper conglomerate, and he's friends with all of these wealthy, rich, white, racist people. And so they decided to also friends with, by the way, what company is it? I'm trying to remember. I teach this to my students. Hélène Eleuthère DuPont, the DuPont petrochemical factory. Ooh. Also friends with these buddies, all these rich people, right? And at the time, the DuPont factory was creating Kevlar, Mylar, like refrigerant stuff. They make everything, right? You look in your cabinets right now, you have products from DuPont. Everybody does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I know. I've seen it.
Everybody sees
100%.
it. It's in your house. And so DuPont saw hemp and cannabis as a threat to the economy.
There it is.
And there was this just mess of events that came together where you've got rich white people in power, a lot of xenophobia, bad economy because of the Great Depression, and this new commodity called hemp cannabis that's kind of coming onto the scene and creating some stir, and the people in power didn't want that to happen. So they suppressed the upheaval, arguably. This is one argument. The other side of the coin is they were trying to create stability. Cannabis is disruptive. Look at what's happening right now to our economy, and everything that's going on. Cannabis is very disruptive. So I think that
certainly is.
It's very disruptive.
So I think they were maybe just trying to stabilize the economy. That's the counter argument, is they were not trying to suppress cannabis. They were just trying to not destabilize an already destable economy.
Do you know what's so crazy? I actually believe that you you're not leaning in either direction. Your energy is really like,
that's beautiful,
which man. I think is kind of a challenge for everyone.
For me.
Like I'm just
for me,
like,
bro.
Yeah.
I just made a fucking sign over here. I'm gonna go pick it from this fucking shit. Fuck the man. You know, but he's like actually objectively understanding it.
Wow.
It's sick.
I mean, it's the world we live in. My dad actually taught me something a long time ago about the whole gun debate thing, whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun, whatever. I don't care. Again, I don't pick sides. But my dad made a really interesting point about people who are super pro-gun. And he was like, do you think you will ever have more guns than the government? Are you ever going to own a fighter jet? Are you going to have... Like, it's never going to happen.
A tank? Where are you going to park a tank, dog?
You know, like, what's the game here in stockpiling firearms? Like, what are you doing here? So if you want to have a couple guns because it's fun and you do it for sport, then do that. But, like, you don't have to go full tilt on these things.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed in my life is that when anybody picks a side on anything, you start ignoring confirmation bias. You said it earlier. Mm-hmm. You start ignoring information.
Yes.
So I tend to not pick sides on any issue in life because
super smart.
I'm open to hearing it all. I don't want to shut myself off to any perspective.
I feel like that's such in line with the plant as well.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's opened my perspective to.
We really need to hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think we get even caught up in using the process of elimination to find out who we are. We get caught in a modality of critiquing everything. But like, yeah, to stay open to everything as though it is nature, because it is a manifestation of nature.
Yes.
And not react to it. Well, it's certainly a lot easier for your heart.
Yes. That aligns with how I feel about the universe. I think that the universe says yes all the time.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm a yes and kind of a person. Like that's kind of how people know me. When
We met in an improv troupe. We know
Yes,
this.
and.
like yes and like that's how I kind of live my life. And I actually learned that. Funny you say improv. So as an autism therapist, I was taught by a guy who was taught in improv, and he firmly believed that to be a very good autism therapist, you need to tap into improv. And there's a French therapist who is a clown, very well known for clowning and improv, and he became an autism therapist, and he was like the best. He's the best in the world. There are a lot of people who use improv in business, and like it's not just for people who want to do comedy. Improv is good for people who just want to tap into flow.
Yes.
And who want to work well with people and just learn to listen.
That's it. And like the reason probably why you become better autistic, like for someone who works with them, is because they're the best improvers in the world, because they can navigate and have free association, and it's just like unbiased.
They're free flowing constantly.
Yeah, like we even me as a rapper, I think of something that will rhyme with that thing, but I'm like, but that's not cool enough to say. Like literally, you
have to audit that information.
I have to like organize it. They're just like blah 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 blah, and it's like fuck, dude, just like unstoppable.
No filter. But working with no filter is not the best thing in life.
Like I said, diagnosed Tourette's. It does happen. Oh, I didn't realize I said that to your friend, Winnie. Sorry, I'll never be seeing you guys again.
So can I ask you about that? Are we allowed to? Yeah,
absolutely, please.
Is that a thing that happens?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like monthly, weekly?
It depends.
I know this is your show, but now I'm interviewing you.
No, please, not at all. It depends the liability of the situations and their frequency.
Yeah.
So it's more of a question of that. So it's probably like 1 out of 4.
I think
something happens. It depends if I'm allowed to be me.
Yeah.
Like we met at an event where I was just allowed to be me.
So what does that mean, allowed to be you?
He's not feeling constrained.
No one's putting a status quo on the who's allowed to affect or take up space or give or receive. Like, I've performed at some like black tie events that are like you only take up this small little square over here, and like you don't affect anything, or you're out of here. That's just
a trigger for you.
I'll take the envelope and leave, but like fine, like if you want me to perform, but always happy to entertain. But it's when I'm in situations when I observe humans shrinking themselves, I'll be like,
Ooh, I love that. I love the way you just said
that. Motherfucking heart, bitch. Like, you should stop faking like you don't got a heart, because you do. And I'm just like a bad kid like that. Like, I'm not really scared to break the status quo.
No, that's beautiful. I love that.
You. Yeah.
You see the shrinkage and you just want to pop it out of people.
I think you deserve to show all that heart. That's really where it is. And some people take it as dominance. And I'm like, no, I'm like literally doing the opposite. I'm trying to nurture you.
I think at one point it did express itself as dominance, because
I'm a bit of a street kid.
It's being an outsider observing from the outside. It's evolved over the last 14 years immensely. Like where you're at now, the amount of like self-control that you have now with it is.
What happened the other day? Something happened the other day, and we just walked away like.
Let's hear it. I love stories.
I did really fucking good. I think we talked about it on the podcast when homie touched my jacket.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like a little too familiar. I don't know, just something like that would normally strike me the wrong way, that I'd normally like react to and dominate.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no. So I'm really practicing being more passive and finding love and observing it and looking objectively, and it's been really good. But it's been a super like fully cognitive intention. Like it takes everything, and I still slip.
Yeah, I can see how cannabis would work to help that, to
and
regulate
I was so
that.
high. Like when I made the good move, I'd say. When I make the mistakes, I'm not high enough.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 100% of the time.
It's like your autonomic nervous system just like kicks into gear. And I like how you say dominance, because that to me thinks that you're protecting yourself.
I'm insecure.
Yeah. You're like, there's something that you feel you need to aggress against.
Yes.
Interesting. I had a friend who had Tourette's when I was in high school, a really big dude too, and it was problematic for him because having Tourette's and being a big dude like can cause problems.
You can hurt someone too, like real quick or whatever.
Well, it wasn't even just that. It's just like people are afraid because you're a big person who has the potential to do damage, and I think that it was a challenge for him socially to get through that.
Absolutely, I imagine.
It's already harder for bigger people.
but he used alcohol to regulate that, and it just made him angrier, right? He didn't use cannabis, which is weird because we were all using cannabis back in the day, but he wasn't into it.
That's up.
Yeah, I feel like that would just like actually go like just create more of it that feels like you're in control, but you're actually not because you're just drunk. So you're like, well, oh, like whatever. Like you just judge it less, I guess, when you're drunk. Whereas when you're high, there's more of a space between the reaction and the sensation. So you can like breathe in for that extra second and catch yourself before you swing.
Cannabis slows us down, right? People say that rather than drunk driving, as opposed to drunk driving, when you smoke cannabis, it doesn't make you a more distracted driver. It makes you a more focused driver.
She had me take it out of the last episode.
I'm gonna make you take it out of this episode.
No,
listen, I would be a worse driver if I wasn't high.
Thank you. I got it's 2 against 1. It's staying.
Sorry, but if I wasn't medicated when driving, I would be nervous, uncomfortable. My chest would be up in it. Like, and it's not just because of me myself. Like driving around Toronto. Let me tell you. Do you guys drive around Toronto?
I have.
We have.
It's terrible. I do it every day. I have to drive from Parkdale to Markham every single day. It's an hour drive through the city. People drive like...
You should be giving this man free weed to do this drive.
I'm just saying,
there should be safety.
Like driving around the city is nerve-wracking.
Seatbelt,
I hear you.
joint.
Cannot wait. I love that idea. Let's innovate that. Let's talk about that after the show.
Let's get it pop. Let's get the rule in.
But like for real, I think that some people just need cannabis to function, and it is a medicine. It's not an intoxicant. And when we start talking about people not being able to drive on cannabis, then we're starting to treat it like an intoxicant and not a medicine.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's what I needed to say.
Well, there's got to be some data on how brains, like some brains just are different.
Test my brain. Right? Test his brain.
Yo, I don't get high.
Yeah.
I don't get high. Give me 1,000 milligrams. Give me dab after dab after dab. I can smoke hash all day long. I smoke big bats of here. I smoke like 5 of these a day.
Did you ever get high?
When I was very...
Feel free, amigo.
I will, thank you. When I was very, very young, I got high.
He's the best.
And I think at the very beginning of when I smoke cannabis, I do get a kind of physical relaxation, but I think that's partially out of like the routine, what's the word I'm looking for?
Your subconscious
ritual.
Yeah, the ritual. You're telling your body it's time to take a breath.
It's ritual time.
Yeah.
You know, and if I did it with alcohol or cannabis or meditation or
your central
video
nervous
games,
system would still go
right.
The same thing, right? It's just the different medium or that I'm using to get there.
Yeah, that's why we push consistency with meditation so hard, because there will come a point where you can reach that because of its ritualistic place or the familiarity of it. Yeah.
So what kinds of meditation do you do? I'm so curious about that because we're trying to get into it, and it's something that I used to be into, TM specifically, Transcendental.
Nice.
But what kinds of meditation do you guys do?
We just started with simple guided meditations that we found on apps and YouTube and shit, and then we've kind of gone separate ways in terms of what we listen to. I'm really focused on no stimulation meditation right now, so just me in the silence, and it's proving to be very challenging.
But how are you doing it? Are you laying down, sitting down, eyes open, eyes closed?
I sit up cross-legged, spine straight, eyes closed.
And and that works for you?
Yeah, I get to a place, I didn't yesterday, and then I went back to guided today because I knew what I needed, and it wasn't that. But I get to a place where I've seen it a couple times. It's nothing. It's basically spinning nothing. And sometimes images and stuff enter in the spinning nothing, but it feels also like nothing, or what some might call floating. And that place, I feel the connection to everything and the ultimate fullness of my human being.
I love that. Have you ever floated or taken DMT? Because what you're talking about right now brings me to a place where I've gone in both of those situations, both
Yeah.
in the float tank with sensory dab and with DMT.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm
talked
going
about that.
to.
We
It's all
need to
healed
with
up.
Angelina. It's time.
Got it.
We should be super happy actually that you're here.
Yeah.
Angelina Blessed is here.
Yeah. She off screen today.
Yeah, our plug actually to Joe. Got to shout out the plug
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
Gratitude. Thank you.
So what are you trying?
Okay, so we're really not trying. we're talking about trying. Let's be real.
But it's the
Okay,
ritual.
that's good.
You already have the software.
Yeah, so I learned. Here, I'll open Pandora's box a little bit here. I learned how to meditate in prison
Oh wow.
from a really old man who was locked up for 40 years. A guy that we knew as Blue,
Cool.
white hair, beautiful blue eyes, and he was in there for a very long time. He taught me transcendental meditation,
Right.
which is a little bit different. It's not like, and I really like it because it doesn't like force you to do a chant or force you to think any certain thoughts or do anything. I kind of like how it's not guided. And here's how I was taught to do it. I was taught to do it sitting in a chair, or however you're most comfortable. If that's a sofa or a chair or lying or propped up or whatever it is, just be comfortable. That's what I was told and how I was taught. And I was also told and taught that you don't have to keep your eyes closed.
Absolutely.
That you could have your eyes just relaxed and just like focused on somewhere on the ground or on a picture that you really like or something like that. That just relaxing your gaze is what it's really about. Is you're not looking at something, you're just really kind of relaxing your eyes. And
You're not cognitively processing through sight.
and you're also not deliberately trying to keep your eyes closed. And this is kind of what I've always had a problem with about like yoga is that you're trying to do yoga. At what point can you just let go really? When can we do intuitive movement where it's like what works for you? You don't have to hold it for 1 minute. We don't have to do 10 push-ups or 10 reps. Like what works for your body?
I love that so much.
Yeah.
This is intuitive living.
So
We are one with spirit. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's good. That's how I meditate as well. Is
Yeah.
you allow the thoughts to pass. So it's not about controlling the thoughts. It's about sitting there, and to your point about like doing it habitually. It's this idea of we are receivers of thought. I don't control my thoughts. I allow the thoughts to enter my mind and exit my mind. I don't have to think about them. It's
Yeah.
the practice of allowing thoughts to wash over you and wash back away.
Yep.
And not trying to control it. And so taking 5 minutes a day, this is where I need to try get back to, is taking 5 minutes a day, two times a day.
It's that sit down time.
It's that sit down time. To both of your points, like, yeah, you have to actually sit and do the time, allowing yourself to be just an open conduit to receiving information.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I would say that is, I agree, it's 100% the soft skill of meditating. For me, the hard skill practice that I do enjoy, and I love how you asked about form right off the top, is cross-legged, back straight, intention to reach lotus. Probably never going to happen with my knee, but that's fine. It's intention, right? And it's the breath. It's the regulation of the breath, the calming. The eyes closed for me because when I relax these optic nerves, my third eye one is more prone to open. I can feel it, and it's been years because it was calcified, and it was like, and it eventually just like bust open, and then you could feel it. And so,
How did you decalcify?
I don't
not
know, just
DMT?
meditating.
Oh, okay.
Just meditating.
It was DMT for me.
Really?
Oh yeah, I felt it happen in a moment.
Like,
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
no,
you were
please,
talking about
no,
something so
I'm right in there
huge.
with you. No, I love it, and so the hard skill of meditating is literally like Wim Hof breathing for me. You know, it's kind of, but without the timed intention, as you say, it's literally just in and out, and you know, your first breath is like, you know,
It doesn't always come out like it's
you know,
one.
and then by the time I'm done meditating, it's.
Yes.
You know, so I like remind my system what is going on here, like as well as remind my brain that, oh, this isn't the ego thing that you thought was going on. Like, you know, your momentum is still
Thank you.
in the trajectory of this dimension, or your plans are still happening. But like, remember that we're like that, and not just this. You know, so it's kind of like I agree with, like, man, letting the thoughts pass. No, like, what? You're not your thoughts. They're just thoughts. Oh man, what a fucking hack to know.
But you know what? You're totally right about breathing. It's something that I'm trying to practice it. I'm just learning about it. It's like, I'm just learning how to breathe. Oh, I realize it's not an automatic function. To take a good breath.
Yes.
Not like these short little fucking piddly
panic breaths.
That's basically how I live my life, right?
Yeah, all of us
right?
are like that. Yeah.
So just holding all the time, holding, and then finally maybe at the end of the day it's like, oh yeah, right, I can breathe. So yeah, your breath is huge. I'm really trying to learn how to breathe.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's like, it helps the brain, oxygenates the blood, and like, it's magic. Like, did you ever try the Wim Hof stuff?
Yeah, I actually had a neighbor named Marie who lives actually not too far from here who got trained in Wim Hof.
Cool.
Is a well-known
From
trainer
him?
in Toronto. From him, yep.
Sick.
From him directly, and got certification and everything. She does it here in Toronto. I think breathing is kind of trending right now.
Yeah.
It's funny, after all of the stuff we've gone through for the last couple years, it's funny, people are learning how to breathe.
Well, I mean,
Go figure.
It posed a couple questions, right? Like, you know, with the whole mask stuff, and you know, to your point of looking things objectively, and the brilliance and wisdom in that is, no matter what we feel about the last couple of years, new awarenesses have popped up. New awarenesses. We've checked out more shit that we never thought of before in that way, that intensely.
Yeah.
So even if someone came from a place of like, yo, fuck these masks, and they like found all these breathing things, and that led them to simply doing breathing exercises because they're like a little version of like self-control rebellion. You know what I mean? Like, great. There's just more people breathing.
Yeah.
Like,
I think probably more people have like felt anxiety for the first time than ever before either.
That's true.
So they were like, this doesn't normally happen. How do I fix this?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like,
Yeah.
and maybe even if they felt anxiety, maybe they didn't have a name for it, but now
Yeah.
they do. They like found the name anxiety for what
Yeah.
they've been feeling,
and communicate it.
Yeah.
and now they can communicate it. Now that they put a name to it, they can actually do something about it. Yeah, definitely. The pandemic has changed us all in one way or another.
Yeah, it certainly has.
Okay, this has been so beautiful getting philosophical. I definitely want to hear all your thoughts, but I do want to milk your brilliant brain for more information on the cannabis plant.
Let's do it. Let's talk, because we do have like a smattering of hash in front of us.
Yes.
We've got the hash kettle beside us.
Selfishly, I want to get to the plant again.
Let's do it.
What the fuck is so special about hash? Why are you Joe Hash? What'd you do at Hashco? And when can I smoke this Khalifa Mint's Headwater delicious hash?
Well, I mean, you can start smoking it right now while
sick.
I start telling you the story of hash.
Okay, deal.
I mean, okay, so like hash goes way back, as old as cannabis is, right? At some point, people started collecting resin from the plant, just like we collect honey. And that's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. When we talk about making hash or collecting hash from a plant, what we're really talking about, I know you guys probably know, everybody in this room, but for some of your viewers that may not know, it's the collected resinous glands from the cannabis plant. So if you look at a cannabis plant, the flower, it has sticky glands all over it, and it has green and purple plant material. The green and purple plant material doesn't really do much when it interacts with our bodies. It's really just chlorophyll and plant material. So as a hash maker, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to collect all of that resin, mush it all together, and give you more bang for your buck, so to speak.
Yes.
So instead of having to combust plant material that doesn't really interact with your body very much, it's kind of carcinogenic to inhale, and it's inefficient, right? Like, we're consuming all these big flowers that take up space and don't do anything to us. So, you know, what I'm trying to do is separate the medicine or the activating compound in the cannabis. That's basically what hash is. That many thousands of years traditions, and where the word assassin comes from, even. Hashashin.
Assassin?
Stop.
The-
That's so cool.
The word, if you guys didn't know?
No.
The word assassin comes from Hashashin. These are a tribe of people who back in, the early AD, hundreds, I forget the name of the man who was their leader, but it was a man in the mountains who led a group of assassins, and they did very high-profile, secretive killings of royal family members and government employees, and they also smoked a lot of hash. The theory is that these guys would get really fucked up on hash before they would go kill someone.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
I feel like, how could you get so high on hash and want to kill someone?
Because then you go right back to where the hash was and forget about doing what you did. And I think that's what it was, a cult. It was a bit of a cult.
Yeah.
And if you read about it, you can Google this. It's all online, right? Really well-known history.
I think there's with Sikh traditions, they did weed tea before they went into battle.
Yeah.
And Humble was telling me about that, and I said the same thing. I was like, dude, if I got high on edibles, I'd be like, you know what, fuck this war, man. Let's just, do you want to just chill out? Like, there's water right here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of drugs are like that. We saw that happen in Vietnam. We saw that happen in the MK Ultra studies, where soldiers were given LSD, and they were like, what am I doing here? I don't want to have anything to do with this killing stuff.
Yeah, you get connected. It snaps you into thinking from a higher perspective.
It pulls back all of the social construction. We live in a world of social construction, and when you use any drug, I think even alcohol sometimes can get you there, but even tobacco, right? Like indigenous peoples have used tobacco for many years to get there. It's just that you're getting out of your body enough that you can see there's a world beyond yourself. It's ego death, right? It's ego death. As soon as you start to consume any kind of a compound that takes you away from this experience of sobriety, and this is not a world that I recommend to be sober for, by the way. Our peoples have been getting inebriated for millennia, millions of years.
We want to get lifted.
Like you guys know the stoned ape theory, right?
The found mushrooms, and that's how
yeah.
we pretty much became.
That's it.
It pretty much makes a lot of sense. Psilocybin.
We were up in trees for a whole lot of time.
Shout out Alchemy Gold.
I like that.
Yeah.
You know somebody who's into this stuff?
Oh yeah.
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 It's stoned ape theory. I think it's Paul Stamets is a big mushroom guy who talks about this. We were swinging around in trees for a long time. There was probably a food shortage of some kind that forced us down from the trees. We got onto land, and what is there? Mushrooms. And what happens when you move forward hundreds of thousands of years? We're following herds of animals now. What grows from the shit of herds of animals? Mushrooms. So we were exposed to mushrooms for a long period of our history. And yes, the theory is that it changed our brains, our pineal gland, the third eye, and changed the structure of our frontal lobes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we became.
It makes the most sense out of all the options to me.
I mean, there was some stuff on Gaia that was like, we are a mix of an alien race.
Yeah, you want to go there? Are we going Anunnaki?
Yeah, Anunnaki.
Reptilian
exactly,
Anunnaki?
Exactly. Yes, you got it.
You know what?
This guy speaks my language so good. I love it.
I think the truth of that is panspermia. I think the truth, if you go way back to that, like forget about all the conspiracy stuff and Planet 9 or 10 or whatever it is, I do believe in panspermia, which is this idea of life traveling through the universe.
Yeah.
And an asteroid carrying some small piece of life that hit Earth, and you've got some primordial soup theory, right? And a bolt of lightning or something happened. Life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
That's so lovely.
I didn't write that. That comes from a movie somewhere that I saw in the 80s, I'm sure.
Well, it's going to be used as a snippet
it.
regardless.
Yeah.
We'll have to look that one up after and who actually came up with it. Right. But yeah, I think that the truth behind the alien thing is we're actually battling our reptilian brain, and we're constantly like moving forward in evolution. It's our frontal lobes. We're like, okay, we're human, right? We can respect each other. We can relate to each other and not be animalistic and not be fucking assholes to each other.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what the conversation is when we talk about aliens and things we don't understand. Like we created religion.
That's just us in the future.
I've been saying that for fucking years.
Yeah, bro.
It's totally just us in the future.
It's just time travel.
Something like that.
It's not other itself reflected from different time pattern.
If the Big Bang is true, okay, if we take the Big Bang as true and you were to draw the Big Bang and see how far it's like splashed out from its center, which has been essentially agreed upon by many quantum physicists and astrophysicists in the field. There have been areas of the universe that have been around for millions of years longer than us. Are we really thinking that there's never been anything else before us? Are we really thinking that there's not humans that have figured out some stuff before us? I don't know.
1,000%. Yeah, the Earth has done many things like before we've landed on this version of us building in the third dimension this time. But ultimately, you got to look at it from a source conscious perspective, where it's just like what this moment is right in front of us is just a beautiful like projection of like our perception, and like we're meaning making machines, and we figured out that a good life is about 100 years, and we come, manifest, grow, learn, rinse, and do it again, like from an infinite way. It's like when we try and chase matter around, as fascinating as the data is and how it can lead to new discovery, it's like I've almost found more beauty in not knowing the specific answers to those things, and just like trusting that like this moment is a gift. Somehow it's like a fluke, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Like, be here now.
Yeah,
Baba Ram Dass says, be here now, like living in the moment. I think that's how I live. You can only control now. Now is all that ever exists. You don't have then or in the future. You don't have past or future. Yes. You only have now. That's all we can control. So just don't be a prick right now.
Yeah, don't be a prick. That's your good.
We so went left field from Hash.
I was gonna say, and the conversation started with Hash and ended with "Don't be a prick," and that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of full circle.
Yeah.
But please, okay. So I accidentally sucked up a whole little ball of hash because I didn't put it on the sword like you told me to.
Yeah. No, but that can happen. So there's only a couple kinds of hash that I've given you that you can use this for.
Okay.
So I've written one here called GMO Dabs.
GMO Dabs.
This is the one that you should be using with this nectar collector or dab device that we have here.
So cool. And this is more like a buttery substance rather than
powdery?
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. So yeah, it's a more buttery substance.
The terps are banging on this.
Yeah, that's GMO.
Oh my god.
Yeah, sweaty gym socks, hockey bag, dirty hockey bag. It's kind of garlicky.
Yeah, it is garlicky.
Garlic and
it's
mushroom.
Quite garlic.
It's very garlicky and mushroomy.
Umami.
Very umami. Love that word to describe it, yes.
Rich.
So I've given you the bubble hash version of it, and maybe this is a good starting point for the discussion, right? As we've got GMO and GMO, but what's different about these different GMO hashes? So I don't know if maybe you'd want to show people in the camera or whatever, but there's the buttery version, which is dabbable. It's a concentrate which you can actually vaporize, and it will leave nothing at all in your tools whatsoever. And then there's another kind of a hash. Winnie's going to bring it a little bit closer for you so you can see. There's another kind of hash that we call bubble hash. Very soft, eh?
Oh.
Give that a smell. Oh, yeah. The viewers will love that, too.
Whoa.
So that you smoke like you would smoke in a pipe or a joint or a bong or something like that. So you wouldn't actually use this vaporization on flour or with flour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And what's the process to the difference of making them?
I love that you asked that. I could talk about this all day long.
Yes.
Okay, so I use ice water extraction to make these products, which literally means putting a bunch of weed in water and ice. Some people would be like, no, you're ruining it. But actually the science shows that water activates cannabis. And what we do is we agitate the cannabis to remove the trichome heads. The trichomes are those glands, those resinous glands I was talking about earlier on the side of the plant that are all sticky. We remove the glands from the plant. We dry them with water and ice. Ice water extraction and agitation. It's just agitation and separation. We put them in food-grade nylon sieve bags. And basically like you would sieve for gold, you're sieving for
gold.
For resin, for gold. And it does really feel like that. Like it definitely feels like you're gathering gold.
Oh my goodness, what a cool process.
It is. It's a great fun hobby.
Oh, it smells so good.
So you scoop that resin, which we call a trichome slurry, you dry it in a freeze dryer, which is used to make freeze-dried foods typically, but we use it to dry hash. And then you keep it
either as bubble, like the second one that Winnie showed you guys, or you can put it in a rosin press and refine it another time and create something called hash rosin. So you put it in another kind of food grade nylon bag. You squish it under pressure and heat. It oozes out the oleo resin inside of the trichome.
Yes, I've seen this.
And you see a lot of these videos on Instagram, I'm sure. You see the drip videos.
It's like a mechanic thing, and it's like thousands of pounds of pressure.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's
it was intense. That was pretty incredible that happened. Okay, so this is just the stuff gathered together.
That's it.
And this is the stuff gathered together, then pressed.
Again. Yeah, that's right. Then refined again. Correct. Under heat and pressure. So what you're actually doing is it's a double refinement. The trichome, which is the sticky part of the plant, looks like it's a resinous gland. It looks like a stalk and a head on top.
Yeah.
And you're trying to knock that head off. And what we're doing is we're getting some of the stalk still in the bubble hash. And when you refine it again, not only are you removing those stalks, but you're also breaking open that shell, the cellulose shell of the trichome head, and the oleo resins within it start to ooze out. So all your terpenoids, all your flavonoids, all your cannabinoids all start coming out, and that's what we gather. We collect it and put it in a jar.
That is so fascinating and brilliant and fun and delightful, and seems like such a forward way to interact with cannabis.
Yeah, it saves you a lot of money.
Really?
Oh yeah, like it's wastage. What smoking flower is a huge waste. Like I think it's going the way of the dodo, man. I think people who consume flower are going to be hanging up their cowboy hats and spurs very soon. It's going to be like people who rolled their own tobacco.
Really?
Yeah, people who buy pouches of tobacco, like who does that anymore?
Fuck. Well, that's what you see. Like if you see the kids, like I remember like when I was 15, 16, you know, your friends like get a joint, like smoke some weed, like, you know, and now the kids are like, you have a vape. You know, like it's a vape. It's a vape now.
And beverages.
I know, like cheers.
And edibles. Right,
I know.
like these are the friendly ways to consume that we could actually bring into social consumption lounges. Like this we could have a cannabis bar, and you can serve just drinks. It's nano emulsified. It's in and out of your system really quickly. You're not getting drunk. To your point about what happens to people when they drink and they get all that doesn't happen on cannabis really.
Yeah.
I know. So I'm really looking forward to all the new form factors, we call it, of cannabis that aren't combustible, that are not us smoking it. And I love the flower, I love the plant and working with it, but it's a raw commodity. It's almost like looking at the hops in your beer.
Oh yeah.
And to me, it's only an evolution of time. It's only like we haven't had 100 years since alcohol prohibition. Like alcohol prohibition has had 100 years to create the kinds of alcohol products we currently have.
Right.
And to be served to us the way that it is. We haven't had that time with cannabis, with innovation yet. And even if you look at the cigarette companies these days, the Rothmans of this world, the big multi-billion-dollar tobacco companies, they're getting away from combustion.
Fuck yeah.
They're not going to be selling cigarettes in 5 to 10 years. They're getting away
just
from
vapes.
Just the vapes.
Yeah.
So I think raw flower is going to be not a big seller in 5 to 10 years.
That's such a crazy prediction.
I've never like fully landed there because I'm such a fan.
Me too.
But like, yeah, you got to accept that we are the old heads going on now.
I think it's just economically, like it's not a preference thing. It's just that when I look at the business of cannabis, I don't think it's economically viable. It only made sense to sell cannabis flower in bags because it was illegal. We did it by not paying rent, by not paying for power, by not paying for water, by doing it illegally, by not paying taxes. And now you have to pay for your location, you have to pay your staff, you have to pay your...
And all these bullshit certifications and all this nonsense and all this like over scrutinizing of the retail process and advertisement, and it's like give someone an eye patch and tie their hand behind their back and tell them to go fight 5 guys.
Build an airplane in the sky.
Like that's absolutely obscene, and it's actually still going. Even that fucking astounds me.
But it's a raw commodity.
It's
Again,
incredible.
it's like corn. It's like taking corn and putting it in a bag and selling it in this store and making it flashy. It's like corn. Like it doesn't make sense. We just haven't evolved. We just haven't evolved the commodity yet. Like what the world is waiting for is the Kellogg's. They're waiting for you to take a cannabinoid, a small amount of it, wrap it around all this foofy stuff. Think like beauty products, right? They take this small amount of like Q10, Q10 something. They put it with all the foofy stuff. They put it in an expensive package, and you are willing, happily, to pay the premium for that product.
Yes.
We don't have that in cannabis yet. That's what the world, the grand world, not the stoners of this world, not the cannabis people from the past 10 years,
Right.
but like the larger world,
Right.
and the new generations of people who don't think smoking is cool, they're waiting for a nice snappy product.
Fuck.
They're waiting for Bazooka Joe of cannabis so they can just pick it up quickly and
Totally.
conveniently, and they're willing to pay a premium for it.
Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck.
Wow, well said.
That's sick. You heard it here, folks.
Yo.
And I don't love it. Like, trust me, I'm not like racing towards this, but it's definitely a reality that I see, especially as these big U.S. companies, and like you get big Canadian companies too, like Constellation brand, who bought into Canopy Tweed. That's a beverage company that owns a whole bunch of craft breweries that are operated as if they're craft, but they're not. So that's the way this world is going, and it's not about a preference of whether I want it to go this way or not. It's just that big company. If we want the cannabis industry to be legal, like, be careful what you wish for, right? Like, it's legal now.
Yeah.
These big companies are going to get in. The Unilevers that we were talking about at the beginning of this show, the P&Gs, they're going to get in, and they're going to make it like every other shampoo, butter, breakfast cereal product that you currently buy.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck. It gotta go that route to become that kind of mainstream topic for people to accept.
Do you want it to be normalized or not?
Exactly. Even just symbolically, for it to be a discussion on the table, it's like, instead of people's, even no one says tissue, they say Kleenex.
Yeah.
You know, or like, pass me the Head and Shoulders. Like, there has to be a brand, and for us legacy
Chapstick.
folks,
Great
That's
example.
the one for me.
Right.
Yeah. You know, and that shit sticks, and it's part of it, and before you know it, there will be some sort of tacky Christmas commercial.
Hey,
like with polar bears.
I can't wait to see a commercial, a cannabis
great.
commercial.
That'd be great.
Fuck.
well,
That'd be great.
they have them in the U.S., but not here. The classic cannabis commercial that I actually show to my students is done by MedMen. Have you seen it?
No way.
The first cannabis commercial?
We'd love to see it.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
We'll roll it here as long as we can.
Oh my goodness, you guys should roll this thing. There's actually a behind the scenes of it. It's the guy who did Jackass, who was the director of Jackass. Brilliant director. And he's done a whole bunch of
Brody.
movies. No, I wish I could remember his name. He's like Spike Jonze.
Oh.
It's Spike Jonze, okay? Like, really well known. He's done music videos for FKJ Twigs and Janet Jackson, and like huge music videos that are gorgeous. And he made the first ever cannabis commercial for a company called MedMen in the United States.
Yeah, well, I know. I've been to MedMen.
I've been to MedMen. It's the Apple store
The
of-
Apple Store weed.
of weed, right? So they paid a bunch of money to get Spike Jonze to make the first cannabis commercial. And what they did, it probably ran out of fuel.
Shit.
He created a life-size diorama. Remember when we built dioramas as kids in
Yeah.
high school? Shoebox. So he did a life-size shoebox, but he did like 5 of them connected on a soundstage. And he went from one to the next to the next to the next, chronologically in time, from George Washington, because he was a hemp farmer,
Right.
all the way through to like black people getting arrested disproportionately, to the legalization of cannabis. And like, he went through it all in one panning single shot.
Yes.
It's
Whoa.
gorgeous.
Wow.
Really well done. And one actor plays 3 characters in the same commercial.
Ah.
So he's doing costume changes behind the scenes before the shot. It's really beautiful. It's a great piece. And if you see the behind the scenes, you will cry. They talk about veterans getting access, and so there are some cannabis commercials out there, but that's the one to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely look that up right after this.
Can you tell us about this kettle?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Can you- I
So you
really-
asked about Hashco.
Yeah.
It's a company that started with my friends. called the Hash Corporation.
So cool.
We focus on hash. I'm wearing the shirt here, right? It's the only company in Canada that only does hash. They don't do pre-rolls. They don't do drinks. They don't do flour in a bag.
No.
They only focus on hash. And it's really traditional hash, not the new hashes that we've been talking about. So Hashco makes most famously a black hash, like an Afghan style hash. And I brought this one for you guys to keep.
Oh,
This one's already open, so we'll use this one to try.
Hashco Gold Seal Hash.
Yeah. And so if you know about gold seal or seals from back in the day, this was like, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when there were weed droughts in Canada, in Ontario and Quebec. There were times where you just couldn't get weed. And so you could get a brick of hash and it would last you for the winter or something. It would kind of like, get you by. That's what this is. This is like the same kind of sticky black hash that we used to get back in the day. That's bendy. It's not just pressed keef like a lot of the other cannabis companies are doing these days.
Oh, hold on. Pressed keef?
Yeah, most hash on the market right now, like your 48 Norths, they're doing they're just pressing keef in a press for a long period of time with some heat.
So what's
It's not like this.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
so-
looks like that though, like that. No, it doesn't look like that. It looks like that.
It looks
what
like
you
pressed
said.
keef. Yeah, that's what it
This
is.
classic,
Yeah.
this hash, this is the hash that my dad had.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, for sure.
And we don't try to be. Pass it to Winnie.
Oh,
You
sorry.
can check it out too. I've got another piece here. And we're not trying to be the best hash. That's not what we're trying to be at Hashco. I'm no longer there, but they're my friends. They're like my best
Yeah.
buddies, so I still feel very Hashco. I wear the shirt. I rep the stuff.
Oh, we're repping
Wow.
Hashco now too.
Right?
That's nice.
So we're not trying to be the best hash. We're just trying to be the hash that you remember from high school.
I love that hash, man. It's
Right?
hard to
Yeah.
actually find that hash
That's
these days.
exactly
Yes.
it. So here, Winnie, what I'll do is,
I didn't know you could find that hash on legal.
Yeah.
Like that's a legacy thing.
and that's it. And it's got that smell. It's got that like
Yeah,
old world
totally.
smell.
I love it.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll up a snake, which you guys probably are familiar with
Bro.
from joints, right?
Yes.
Do you remember doing bottle tokes back in the day?
Yep.
You would.
No.
She's
No?
a later stoner.
You're a later stoner. So bottle tokes, you take either a can or a plastic bottle. You cut a hole in it. You can take a glass bottle with a dime in it, scratch it a little bit, smack it on your foot, on your heel, and it would crack open a perfect circle.
Oh, what?
Yeah. If you were good at what you were doing, you knew how to do bottle tokes.
Yeah, Jordan could do that. Yeah, there's always one kid who.
There's
could
always
do
one
it.
person who can
Yeah.
do it. You'd put a little piece of hash about this big on the end of a cigarette. You'd close the top of it, and then you would brew the little piece of hash on the end of a cigarette in the bottle, let the tobacco kind of dissipate a little bit, and then suck it up. And that's a bottle toke, a BT. So I have been doing those for years with my friends, and this is actually a shout out to two people in the industry, in the cannabis industry, Adam Brockest from Mother Labs and Bubba from Thrive. Graybeard. Both beautiful people, right?
Both
Beautiful
beautiful
humans. So they, a couple years ago, it might have even been during the pandemic, they were hanging out somewhere at a park bench and they were brewing hash in a whiskey cup with a coaster on a dowel. This was their system, right? It was really cool and classy, and they kind of brought the discussion of brewing hash back. So that's the first inspiration for it was Adam and Bubba. They were brewing hash, and they brought it onto social media, and they started that conversation again. And people were like, "Oh, brewing hash is a thing." I'm hanging out at Adam Brockest's house for a party one night. We're in the back, and he pulls out his cup to do the brewing thing. And I say to him, "Hey," because he's using a joint. He's using like a cut joint in a cup, and it's like hung over the cut joint, and it's paper, and it's kind of janky, right? It's like it's nice, but it's like it's rudimentary.
Right.
So I'm
It's a
like,
makeshift.
it's a little makeshift. So I take a few tokes, I get some inspiration, and I'm like, "Hey, why don't we just make this?" And they were like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "No, like let's make this. Like we know glass blowers in Ontario, really well-known ones. Why don't we just get one of our glass blower friends to make us this out of glass so you don't have to use a dowel and a coaster?" And they were like, "Wow, that's really fucking smart."
You solved your own problem.
So I called
Gifted it to the marketplace.
Yeah, I did. And I called the glass blower and I told him the idea. He's like, "Draw me an idea." Go back to the office the next morning, drew the idea down, sent it to him, and he came up with some prototypes. And some people have some of those prototypes. Bubba has one of the prototypes. And Art from Thrive has one of the prototypes. And there are several people around the city and in the industry who have one of the 10 first hash kettles ever made. But this is not one of those. This is a special kettle that was made for me by the glass blower. His name is Drew Mastaglass. He's on Instagram as Mastaglass. He's known for having the world's largest bong. He had to stand on the roof of a house to smoke it.
What?
Oh yeah, there's a great video of it. He's also known as Mastarola. If you guys know him from old cannabis days, very well-known glass blower. He makes recyclers for dabbing, and he made these Weedle nectar collector devices as well. He's a great glass blower here in Ontario, Canada, North America, the world.
Beautiful.
So he made these hash kettles, and he's making them in partnership with the Hash Corporation. You can see the logo here for Hashco. Yes. Gold and emboldened and whatever it is.
Beautiful.
That word.
Yeah. It looks like
beautified into the glass. And this one actually has some crushed opal on the top.
Oh.
So it's nice and shiny. And there's a piece of opal in the top.
Yeah.
So what we do is, to get the hash kettle working, is you roll the snake just like you would for a joint, but instead of putting it in a joint, you light the end. And only certain kinds of hash will work for this. Some are too melty and too soft, and some is too dry. So it's really like a certain kind of hash that works, and I'm hoping that this hash works, right? It has to char a little bit, and you have to get a cherry. There we go. So what I'm doing now is I'm just hanging this piece of hash on the glass dowel on the inside.
He's sticking it in.
Yep. We put the top on.
Oh my God, it's like a Persian tea set for weed.
Oh my God.
And it looks like that. Like your grandma would come in here and see this and be like, oh, honey, what a beautiful oil fucking container you got. She wouldn't say the fucking
Take a hit, Nona. Oh my God.
And now
is
you're brewing
gorgeous.
hash. No tobacco, no weed. It's pure flavor of the hash. It's cascading down beautifully. You get to watch it. And if you want to do it COVID safe or share safe, you can just open the lid and drink it. So you don't actually have to use the spout, but you can if you want. Winnie?
I heart this so hard.
Thank you.
These are available in stores all over Ontario. So you mentioned one earlier, Sticky Nugs. Who do you know there at Sticky Nugs?
Sam, the owner.
Sam.
And Chris, his daughter, and Joe, his son.
Yeah. Ghost Drop store has them. Stoked is probably the best stocked store for them. Stoked has a store in Scarborough on Pharmacy. They have another one down the road on Kingston. They've got another store in Niagara, opening another one on Eglinton. Stoked is probably the best brand to get your hash kettle from. Awesome. In terms of cannabis retail stores. But yeah, if you're a cannabis retail store and you want to carry hash kettles, just reach out to Hashco, and I'm sure they'd hook you up. They are limited though. Drew can only make so many.
Yeah.
So these are special individual art pieces pretty much as well.
I'm glad you said that. They actually are. He is engraving on the bottom a number and
This guy's
his
a legend.
name onto the bottom. So it is an art piece. We do treat them that way. It's going to be a limited run of 1,000 hash kettles. He will probably never make more than that. So if you can grab one,
Congrats.
It's a unique piece for sure.
Fuck.
What a nice thing. This
nice.
This goes right in with the thing that I'm saying. Instead of friends getting together and having to drink alcohol, like the social norm, that's like kind of, still at play, but maybe on the way out. Let's normalize just getting together and doing either mind-expansive drugs or having some like hash kettle passing. This is cute. It's like having tea.
You wouldn't even need a passing. Imagine a social consumption space where they had a whole bunch of these. You could choose the design that you wanted, and each one of you have one, and there's different kinds, and
it's
then
like
we're passing it around.
Hookah, but with hash.
Yeah.
This is so nice.
So nice.
And in glass. So I think that's also a big conversation. This is glass, right? And glass and cannabis kind of go hand in hand. It has for so long. Pipes, bongs, like there's so many different.
It's a special relationship.
There is a special relationship between glass and even alcohol and food. Big relationship.
Humans like to
incense.
Receive with we very trust glass. It's very familiar in that way. It's ceremonious.
Yeah. I like what you said about receiving. Like we like putting things that we consume in glass before we consume it. It almost beautifies it, or it actually does effectively do things like cure it. People cure their cannabis in glass, right?
Right, yeah. Fuck, dude. I'm so impressed how you just stuck that to the side. That just works like that with good hash.
Well, with the right hash. Yeah, and then the dowel also gets sticky over time, right? And so after you use it once or twice, that stick helps to keep sticking it.
Oh, that is true.
And it just works with gravity, right? And the little bit of oxygen that gets pulled in every time we toke, and because this isn't firmly on, there's a bit of oxygen that gets pulled in.
Oh my god.
which keeps it lit.
That is lit. That is triple lit.
Yeah, that's fucking sick, dude. Holy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
so fun.
So you were just like a stoner, solved your own problem, and then like
And made it fucking
gifted
cool.
this to the world.
Yeah, I
Big
mean,
collabo.
I think we need to the point of formalizing cannabis. We need different ways of consuming it that elevate it, that respect the individuals who choose to consume cannabis instead of alcohol.
Yes.
You know, if we had things like this to consume it in instead of burning paper, maybe the wider world would be more accepting, and maybe it would be less stigmatized, because your grandmother could look at this and be like, "Oh, honey, that's the most beautiful incense burner that I've ever seen." And you could be like, "Oh, grandma, you know, I appreciate that, but it's not an incense burner. It's for cannabis." And now that we're having this conversation, you've started off at this good point of appreciation, not of like, "Oh, what's that smell?" or like,
Yeah.
or anything like that. You've started off on a good foot because the thing that you're using doesn't look like a crack pipe.
Which is fine too if you just want to get fine tuned.
Yeah, if you want to get if you want to get medicated really, really quickly.
Which I feel like beautifully high.
Yeah, me too.
I feel
yeah.
tremendously high.
Yeah, hash does that. It has a very different high for me than cannabis.
Yeah.
Oh, than just the flower, right?
Yeah, I find the flower is more of a punch to the face, whereas the
yes.
hash high is a whole body thing.
Yes.
There's definitely something that's going on when I have hash that's more wavy, groovy, holistic, happy high than when I smoke flower to my face. I really do feel like that. Oh, hi, dog.
It's Ralph.
Hey,
Yeah,
Ralphie.
I feel like I want to see if our massage people are still open, you know?
Yeah,
Like, that's how I feel on hash.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
just chill out.
Dude, I feel so fulfilled and blessed that you came and gave, like, your heart and time
Yeah,
with us
what an
and shared
episode.
so many
Holy.
beautiful stories and perspectives. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've changed.
Yeah, I need to just like go back and listen to this immediately.
I really appreciate being here with you guys. You guys make awesome content, and it's, you know, like, it's such a pleasure to be on here with you. I watched you guys with Ange, and I've watched you guys with several other people, and I think that this is a great opportunity for people to start to have bigger, better conversations about cannabis.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
man.
yeah.
And thank you for being a part of that world and expanding the awareness and consciousness of cannabis. Like, you're
Making
such
it
high
classy
value
as
in that
fuck.
conversation. So love you for that, my man. Where can the people find you? Where can they get at you? How can they gain from the things that you know with the plant?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. Best place to find me is on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Joe, Joe.T.O, like Joe Toronto, Joe.T.O.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, we'll have to catch this again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any closing remarks, Win?
No.
I know my mind is blown and I'm high as fuck.
Yeah. I need to take a moment to absorb, I think, now.
Okay, love yourself and love others. Bye.
Disciplined stoners.
The gateway drug to mindfulness.
Gateway drug to mindfulness. Let's
Hey,
roll
Win!
one up and take a hit. Gateway drug to mindfulness. Let's
We,
roll one up and take
We got a new thing.
Oh, right. We need to tell you about our new thing.
Support the show now on Patreon and get a bunch of private perks.